Going to call the order of the Finance Committee meeting for April the 19th, 2016. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of the Finance Committee minutes of April 5th, 2016.
Upon review of the minutes, are there any corrections?
Move the approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Jamie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 1 passed. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments, March 30th, 2016 to April 13th, 2016.
Do we have a report from the Purchasing Committee?
Yes, sir. The purchasing committee met earlier today and reviewed the report of claims with the city treasurer, and I move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second that we approve the claims. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 2 passed. Item number 3.
Consider approval of the lowest and best bid from Douglas Equipment for Civic Center kitchen equipment in the amount of $171,098.66, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Root?
Mr. Chairman, committee members,
I don't believe your mic is on.
I don't either.
is that better?
That's better.
Aha. Okay, let me start over, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Kellen Seitz is here, I think. Patrick, you met.
Yes, sir.
You met Kellen. Okay, so everybody's met Kellen. He's from Spectra. This is the last of the capital improvements for this fiscal year. This involves completing the kitchen, downstairs kitchen, to be a complete catering kitchen. When we first signed the contract, we had the folks from Ovation, which is part of Spectra. They're a food service arm of Spectra. They came in, gave us the design, the preliminary stuff, inspect all the equipment. This also includes the carts, Commissioner Hall, that we had talked about early on, beverage carts, beer carts, the whole thing. This completes it, and what the results will be, we will have a complete catering kitchen on the first floor to cater any events. We're looking at probably an extra, we're looking maybe at $50,000 worth of revenue from banquets and probably another 30 in savings that we wouldn't be spending, which we spent this year. So I'm going to say it's a 3-year payback on the investment. And why it's 3 years is because it's $170 for the equipment, and then we still have to install it. So I'm going to stick with the 3 years for the payback. So Kellen's here to answer questions you might have that I can't, and
So I guess I'd like to ask Ellen, is this the kitchen that you're looking forward to working in?
Yes. This is certainly the equipment that we've been waiting for a little while and hoping for to increase the revenues on the food and beverage sector at the Civic Center.
So are you the chef?
I am not the chef, no, but we will have one. Not a cook, a chef. Yeah.
What's the difference between the cook and the chef?
Cooks traditionally just heat something up.
Okay. All right.
Any additional questions?
You will have your own staff. This won't be individual caterers coming in, will it?
Correct. Yeah. This kitchen renovation will allow us to take our own staff and bring all catering full service in-house. So what that means is it's going to allow us for any banquet functions that are currently seeking outside catering. It's not going to mandate that they use us, but it's certainly going to give them most likely a more affordable option for them to use our catering services, and then for us to go out and cater all the events that we're currently buying out third-party catering services for our concerts, our family shows, our comedians, and any other kind of major ticketed act that we have coming into the venue.
But if someone is having an event there and they don't want your catering service, they want another caterer, is that in the plan at all?
They will be able to use outside catering. Typically, our industry standard requires a catering buyout, is what that would be called, where we would allow them to use an outside caterer for a fee.
For a fee, okay.
From our side.
That's what I was curious about.
And how do we determine that fee?
The fee right now that we have it set is a flat fee of $250. We'll move away from the flat fee and do a percentage based on the amount of catering needs that they may have. Industry standard is 10 to 15% of the overall catering charge. So if you're looking at a catering bill, for example, the mayor's State of the City address, which is, I think, roughly 350 people. A catered meal might be $10 a plate, so that might be a $35,000 catering. So, a catering buyout on that portion would be 10%, so that'd be $3,500.
Okay.
That's a very drastic example, by the way.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 3 passed. Item number 4.
Consider approval of a resolution declaring the property at 409 Irving Street as surplus property and authorize the sale of the property to Veronica Garcia in the amount of $363 or take other necessary action.
Mr. Root?
Mr. Chairman and committee members, Veronica Garcia purchased the property at 411 Irving on 3/18 of this year. She has come to us and requested the lot at 409. She came in on March the 14th. We processed that on 411. She's deposited her money, so once again we have a homeowner that's purchasing the lot right next to them and getting it back on the tax rolls. Any questions?
Move the approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item 4 passed. Item number 5.
Consider approval of a resolution declaring the parcel of property located at 1037 South D Street as surplus property and authorize the sale of the property to Sarah Morris in the amount of $363 or take other necessary action.
Mr. Root?
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Sarah Morris obtained the property at 1035 South D on March 23rd of this year. The city got the property that we're looking at, 1037, on March the 7th, so we've had a really quick turnaround on this one. She's bought the property. She'd like to get the property next to her. She's deposited the money, and I'd recommend approval.
Don, just out of curiosity, I'm looking at my map. Is this the lot on South D Street in Madison, the corner lot? Okay, I'll just make
Yes, sir.
sure.
Yeah.
See if I can recognize it on the map you gave me. Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 5 passed. This next item, are we going to move it forward? It was presented by Coleman.
No, I'd like to present on this for Councilman Coleman, if that's okay.
Okay. Item number 6, please.
Consider approval of a resolution directing all funds received from beginning fiscal year 2017 and continuing until fiscal year 2020 from water and sewer rate increases as established in Resolution 2570 be retained by the Muskogee Municipal Authority and restricting the use of the same to said Muskogee Municipal Authority activities or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker?
And Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the reason why I wanted to go ahead and address this resolution in Councilor Coleman's absence is because it memorializes essentially what was discussed with the council when the water rates were increased. You all may recall when the approval was made to increase all utility rates, with particular water and sewer being increased of 24%. There was some discussion that a portion of that revenue be retained in the Muskogee Municipal Authority, as recommended by the folks who completed the Wildan study. And the purpose of that would be to ensure sufficient and continuing revenue for any water and sewer improvements, repairs, things like that. However, when those were initially adopted, they were needed to balance the general fund in this year's fiscal budget. In future years, in working with Treasurer Kingston, we determined that future increases could and should be retained in MMA. And so and this was recommended also by Councilor Coleman in a phone call to me to actually memorialize this by a resolution. So what this resolution would do would any future increases which have already been approved by the council, those funds will stay in MMA. You all may remember that whenever we do the transfer of claims, we transfer all of the funds received by MMA into the City Council's general fund minus anything kept for debt service. In this instance, any future increases for water and sewer of the 5% per year would be retained within MMA. And those funds, in accordance with this resolution, would be used for any purpose recognized by MMA, which is the Muskogee Municipal Authority, and that would include debt service, water and sewer infrastructure improvements, and repairs. So in proposing this resolution, we think this will assist staff and future councils in keeping any additional increases in for infrastructure improvements as was originally discussed. And I know that that was something when I was sitting in the city attorney's chair overhearing the debate, that was very important to the council. And so I wanted to go ahead and address this resolution. And staff does recommend approval, and we've already been working through our budget to leave those funds within MMA and not incorporate those into the general fund. So happy to answer any questions.
At any given time, can the city manager go, oh, I need it over here, and pull it out without city council's approval?
No, it can only be used for MMA purposes, which have to do with water, sewer, maintenance, improvement.
Move for approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, but let me ask one question, just a point of clarification. It says water and sewer,
Yes.
but that would include trash service as well, because that was part of the rate increase?
No, that is a separate fund.
Okay.
Those funds are kept, I believe, George, correct me if I'm wrong, that's retained within the solid waste fund. Is that correct? Okay, so those funds are already segregated.
Okay.
All right, item number 6 passed. Item number 7.
Consider approval of the appointment of Joshua Cazares to the War Memorial Trust Authority to serve a 3-year term beginning on May 1st, 2016 and ending on April 30th, 2019, and to the Historic Preservation Commission to serve a 3-year term beginning on May 1st, 2016 and ending on April 30th, 2019, or take other necessary action.
Mayor Coburn.
This is my recommendation for Joshua Casares, and everybody probably met him during the election, and he is wanting to serve in that capacity, and I move for that approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I think this is a very good choice. He's a very nice young man, and I believe he's had access to this board. So I recommend approval, too.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 7 passed, and that was the final item, so Finance Committee is adjourned.
And we'll now call to order the Public Works Committee meeting. Item number 1, Pam.
Consider approval of the Public Works Committee minutes of April 5th, 2016.
Any additions or changes?
Please approve as amended.
Oh, please approve as amended. I'm sorry. Thanks, ma'am. Do I have a motion?
Do we get a motion?
Oh, well, I'll make
Move
the
for approval.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as amended. Any other questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston. Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 2.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of an ordinance to close the 20-foot alley running north and south and the 20-foot alley running east and west, both located within Block 63 of the Muskogee Original Town Site, more particularly described in the ordinance, providing for severability and setting an effective date, or take other necessary action.
We are now in the public hearing. Mr. Garvin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the applicant, D. Boots, is requesting approval to close 2 alleys. Both are located within Block 63 of the Muskogee Original Town Site. One alley runs north-south through the block. The other alley runs east and west. The reason for the closure is he's stating that he wants to make improvements to the alley and wants to address some water runoff issues within the alley. Here's an aerial of the property. You can see where Mr. Boots' property is located. The area highlighted in green is the alleys, the north-south and east-west alley. Now, AT&T stated that they have existing cables and poles within the alley. And they were opposed to the closure, recommended denial, or at the minimum, retaining the alley as an easement. Ms. Lou Fuel, who is the abutting property owner, also opposes the closure, but she's opposing the east-west alley. She uses the east-west alley to get access to a parking area that's located to the rear of her commercial building.
And you'll point that building
Yes, right
out?
there's Ms.
Okay.
Fuel's property, and the area being highlighted in blue is the portion of the alley which is used for access and the parking to the rear of the structure. So she objects to the east-west closure. Now, at the subdivision review committee, they reviewed the request and they recommended to close the north-south alley, subject to retaining the easement, and to deny the closure of the east-west alley. And Planning Commission also made the same recommendation. Be glad to answer any questions.
I was getting ready to ask, doesn't that alley run through the middle of that fenced-in property back there?
Yes, the one next door to it where the mud boggers, I think, used
Yeah.
to be. Yes.
And will Ms. Fuel have access to her property if they close that alley?
If they leave the east-west, the one that's highlighted right now in yellow, that's where she gets access.
She'll have to
It's
come
right
off
there
of Main
between her
Street.
property and D. Boots' property. She uses that alley for the drive approach to the parking that's in the rear behind her structure.
The recommendation is to close north-south.
What's
correct?
highlighted in green is what's being recommended to close. What's highlighted in yellow is recommended for denial.
If committee doesn't mind, since we have no one signed up for this, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any more questions for Mr. Garvin?
But it still affects that lady, it doesn't affect anybody's property behind though, right? The green area?
Yeah, the green area will not cause anyone any hardship. The yellow will. So again, what we're recommending, or what's been recommended, is to close what's highlighted in green, which we labeled as the north-south alley, retaining the easements because AT&T has lines in that alley, and to deny the request to close the east-west alley, the area in yellow.
So Gary, the green piece that's north of the east-west that's not labeled, what's back there now? Is it a passable alleyway, or is it just all
No,
grown up?
it's growed up area. There's, like Councilman Hall was saying, I believe it's even fenced in. It's the back of where Mud Boggers was, and which they have access there beside their building.
Mud Bogger is the one to the left of Fuel, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And so really it doesn't affect, they've already closed it themselves effectively.
Yes.
Okay.
When you close these alleys, does the landowners on each side,
Now, when it's close to the city, it's just closed for public use. It's still city property. If they take it a step farther and go through district court and have it vacated through district court, and then the abutting property owner gets half the alley.
right? And they could have that opportunity if they choose to explore that.
Yes, that is correct, if they want to take it that next step.
Who maintains it?
Once it's closed, it's the property owner's responsibility either way.
Even though the city still owns it?
Yes, that is correct.
Is it grown up now?
Some of it's growed up, some of it's fenced off.
I just hope
The,
they,
the east-west alley has gravel and is being maintained. The rest of the alley's not being maintained.
Gary, didn't we have some issue come up about a tow truck facility to the south of this wanting to close something a year ago, 2 years ago?
Well, they had one come up that wanted to rezone, and it was denied, and actually it was appealed. They filed a claim through, or went through district court, and they
It was
lost
more
the
like 5
case.
years ago.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
yeah.
Any other questions?
Move for approval.
have you checked with him and see if these two applicants here are going to keep the alleys cleaned?
I'm sorry, say that.
The two people involved, D-Boots and the other person, are they gonna keep this alley cleaned? Have
It's
you
their
checked with them?
responsibility to keep it clean, yes.
But I'm talking about, have you checked with them? It's supposed to be their responsibility to keep it clean, but you say it's growed up now and it's not being kept clean. Are they
Yeah,
gonna keep
it
clean
depends
now?
on which part. D has done some work right behind his property, but you look from his property over to Butler Street, there's been very little done. The one on the other side where the mud boggers used to be, it's more of a parking area, so it's pretty well being maintained.
Does D-Boots own all the way to Butler?
No, he just owns that portion there, but we will only close from basically from an intersection to an intersection. So we're
Yeah.
closing from there to the railroad property.
You need a second, then I.
Second.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Motion carries. Item number 3.
Hold a public hearing to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Muskogee City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 90, Zoning Regulations, Article 16, Signs, Section 90-16-07, Commercial and Industrial District Sign Regulation by adding Section 90-1607.g, digital standards for signs, providing for codification, repealer, severability, or take other necessary action.
We are now in a public hearing. Mr. Garvin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the City of Muskogee is requesting approval of an ordinance amending Chapter 90 zoning regulations, Article 16 signs, Section 90-1607 commercial and industrial district sign regulations by adding Section 90-16-07.g digital standards for signs. The purpose of the ordinance is to establish some standards and regulations to help minimize the negative impact that you have for signs that are unregulated, whether it's to preserve character, protect property values, reduce traffic hazards. That is the intent of the regulation. The ordinance addresses the location on where digital signs are allowed. They will only be allowed within C2, general commercial zoning, C3, regional commercial, I1, light industrial, I2, heavy industrial, and P, port. They will also be allowed on properties, no matter what the zoning classification is, as long as it abuts the highway commercial district. The highway commercial district are basically all the highways that run through Muskogee, and it is defined in the sign regulations currently, what the highway commercial district is. Now, as far as display of the sign, any single advertisement cannot display or change more frequently than 8 seconds. Now, that does not prevent some movement within the advertisement. As an example, say a car dealership had an advertisement and they wanted a vehicle moving across the screen. That's still one advertisement for that car dealership. It has to be on there for at least 8 seconds before you can go to another type of advertisement. As far as the brightness, and this is one of the major issues we wanted to address, the maximum brightness levels for a digital sign shall not exceed 0.5 foot candle over ambient light levels, and they are required to provide certification to show that they meet that requirement, and that's at any time, day or night. And I'm trying to think of the best way to explain how this was determined and how we check to see if they meet these requirements. For example, if you take your iPhone and you're outside during the day and you're looking at your iPhone, it's kind of hard to see because of the ambient light outside. At night, you have it set on the same setting, but your phone's really bright. You can see it. It's the same way with the signs. They need to have it adjusted depending on the light temperature or the light brightness outside, the ambient light, to determine what that level of brightness needs to be. What we did is I had the building official, Dan Hurd, who went out with one of the LED sign companies. And they went out late evening and into the night and checked several signs and tried to figure out if this 0.5 tenths was an appropriate setting. And we feel like it is an appropriate setting. And if you try to convert it to percentages, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but on the ones they checked, most of the signs were running at about 70% of the brightness, typically. It could go up to 100, but most of them were running 70%. At night, to meet this requirement, they had to turn it down to about 5 to 7% brightness. to comply with this. But even at that levels, the sign looked good, you could see it good, it just wasn't glaring out at you. So, and then the sign contractor agreed, and then most of his, he had set down to 5 to 7%. So we think this is a good requirement and a good standard. Now, this is, and the Planning Commission had me add any time, day or night, because you could have the same impact during the day. If it's a cloudy day, it's going to appear brighter and look brighter and can be distracting. So we added any time, day or night. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. What we're going to require on any new signs after the adoption of this ordinance, if approved, that they have to have a sensor in the sign that will automatically adjust the brightness to meet these requirements. Now, we wanted the existing signs, because we have some issues with some of the existing signs, to also comply. We did give a little bit of an exception for existing signs. We said that they could use a timer to adjust it, but they would have to make sure that timer sets the brightness down at least 30 minutes before sunset and 30 minutes before sunrise. Now, that changes during the year, so they're going to have to manually go through there and change that timer. What we said in the ordinance, though, if they don't manually take care of that, then we will come in and require them to install a sensor. So we're giving the existing signs an opportunity to have a cheaper fix to meet the requirements. But again, if they don't comply, we will make them install the sensor. Now, there's several things we looked at, which we looked at other ordinances, but we got the most of our information from the International Sign Association and the American Planning Association. I did a lot of research with both of those, and these are the standards that both of those recommend. On the International Sign Association, which is the sign companies, their association, but they hired a private firm to go through and look at the signs because they have a lot of issues with the brightness, and this is what they're recommending. And we're doing the same measurement and distance as what they recommended. And again, the building inspector went out and tested our theory and what we were proposing. And again, we feel that it's an appropriate requirement. Both staff and Planning Commission does recommend approval of this ordinance amendment. Be glad to answer any questions.
Gary, before we ask any question, Ms. Rutlinger, would you like to speak on this issue? Teresa, we need your name and address, please, ma'am.
Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. I hate these LED signs. I understand that there's no way you can go ahead and just completely ban them from Muskogee. We had that gentleman who I still can never remember his name that came from Washington State who had the same impression that I did when I came here almost 17 years ago. We have billboards all over this town, and these LED signs, I mean, they're worse than what they have in Las Vegas. There's some that are almost eye level on me, that whites and some of the blues are just horrible to where they're just almost blind you. I'm hoping that the individual businesses that I'm assuming that they will also have to go by these proposed new rules and what have you, because the ones that are down lower than the ones that are up higher are even worse on your eyes. I just really think that we're doing the wrong thing for our town by having these, but I guess once you've got your foot in the door, you can't kind of close it. I don't know if there's any way we can limit however many more that we are going to have. I was talking to Mr. Garvin, and he said there are some rules where you can't have any more, so many billboards have to be spaced so far from each other, and hopefully we're at our max or getting close to our max, because I don't think this is a good thing for the city at all. But I do think that you definitely need to tone these down tremendously, and if this is the best that we can do, I guess we'll all have to live with it, but they're very, very distracting.
Thank you, Ms. Rutlinger. Seeing that we had no one else to speak on this issue, we're going to close the public hearing. Any more questions for Mr. Garvin?
I've got a question. What happens if somebody's in violation of our ordinance?
As far as the existing sign?
Well, we put this new ordinance in, and the grandfathered, semi-grandfathered folks do what they do, and the new folks do what they do. But let's say they don't do what they're supposed to do. Is there a fine or?
Typically, we'd write a warning. Next time, we'd tell them they have to install it, and then we'd start issuing tickets. until they install or correct the violation.
Do you know what the ticket?
It's usually 200 plus court cost.
Okay.
So it'd be cheaper for them to go ahead and put the sensor in at some point.
Well, I can attest from what little I know that at high noon, the brightness level needs to be substantial.
Yes.
And if that brightness level doesn't change and it's now midnight,
World of difference.
it's a world of difference.
Yeah, and that's the problem. A lot of them don't have sensors to do it, and they should be adjusting it manually, and they're not doing it. Now, a lot of the newer signs that's going up now have the sensors in them, but we're going to make it a requirement that they have to have a sensor on any new ones.
And then the old ones, just the dawn to dusk timers.
As long as they maintain it and keep it up. If they don't, then we'll, like I say, issue tickets and then require a sensor.
We have any idea what the sensors are going to cost?
Did the sign company say?
What burden are we placing on the sign owner?
Well, the sensors are probably not going to be really cheap, but that's one reason why we decided to do the timer, to allow them the opportunity to get in at a pretty cheap price, because it's just a matter of putting a timer on there and setting the timer. But again, they're going to have to maintain that and continue to adjust the timer.
Mr. Kale, do you have any idea what the
I suspect it will not be more than a couple of tickets.
Yeah.
And may not be more than one.
Okay, all right. What about the height of the sign? I mean, I know a sign that's on the ground versus a sign that's 30 feet in the air. There's a pretty drastic difference in the size of the characters and that kind of thing. Is the brightness the same thing? When you get in the air 30 feet, you might be able to turn it up way higher than you could if you were on the ground.
Yeah, and the way
5 feet off
we
the
got
ground.
it, for the measurement, we do it by whatever the square footage of the sign is. Then we have a formula that we take the square footage by the distance to determine how far we stand back to do the test of the sign. Because the bigger the sign is, actually, the farther back you end up getting
Okay.
to meet those requirements.
I would like to have some additional conversation with you before Monday night if we have this on for Monday night.
Sure.
But then I would also like to see the map to know where these will be allowed. You know, where a property
highway
zoned
commercial
that
district
way.
is?
Yeah, I want
Now-
to see a map of the entire city that shows where these can be and where these cannot be.
Now, I can give you a map showing you the highway commercial district where they're allowed, no matter what the zoning. As far as the C2, C3 zoning, we're going to have places scattered everywhere. I mean,
What I'm thinking of, you've got a number of churches that are scattered out in
And-
somewhat residential areas.
they won't be allowed to have them, most likely.
Okay.
And the kind of the theory there is especially with the churches, are typically more in a residential neighborhood or adjacent to a residential neighborhood. And this sign could cause an impact on that neighborhood, residential dwelling next door. Same way
But
with
I
the
could put up a
C1.
real bright security light next to a house in a residential area, and I don't get a fine for that, or I don't get a
Well,
requirement
there
for
is
that.
an ordinance that does address that to some degree, where you're not supposed to have light trespass off of your property. It's supposed to be maintained on your property. So if there's a problem with the bright light and it's trespassing on the neighbor's property, it could be addressed. But you're absolutely right.
I'm going to vote in favor of moving this ahead to Monday night, but if we don't answer several questions, I'm not in favor of
Okay.
this as we.
And I'll definitely get you a map showing you the
Yeah.
highway commercial district and kind of an ideal. And you might just look at the future land use map, because it'll kind of show where the C2, C3 zoning is. It's mainly going to be, though, along the highways, but it'll also include like York Street, which is not along highway, or at least part of it.
Gulick Street, for example.
Gillick Street
Got
would
a-
not be,
But you got a pre-existing sign there, an
and it can remain.
enormous sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that one fits the criteria,
They'll have to put a timer on there. I don't think theirs has a sensor. I'm not positive, but did y'all check that one? Okay.
well, some of them are just so bright you're blinded, and I don't want to run up a
Bet.
telephone pole just because they've got lights.
There's no doubt that these signs that are turned up to handle the brightness at 12 noon and not manipulated after that, it's a problem. I
And
mean,
it's dangerous.
Not to make light of it, it's a problem. And I'm assuming that you're working with some of these sign companies or manufacturers has been real helpful in your regard to understanding and learning, and them understanding the concerns of the community and learning, and I think that's wonderful. I'll just say that I would like to have a conversation before Monday myself on a couple of questions, but I appreciate and understand and approve of the direction you're heading here.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions?
Gary, was it 0.3 or 0.5?
Originally, it was 0.3, but after going out and actually doing the testing, we changed it to 0.5, 5/10.
Okay, so if this is approved, because the ordinance that is in the packet is 0.3.
Yes.
So if approved, it'll need to be approved.
Actually revised the ordinance to
Okay.
include the two changes that planning commission made. I won't have these sitting out in front of you, but that'll give you time to look at them before Monday night.
Have other communities adopted these standards?
Some's adopted them this way, some just had a flat, say 100-foot kilowatt at 5 feet away. The problem with that though is it would still be bright at night. And we felt like this would be more,
Hey, one.
would take care of all the issues day and night with the brightness.
Any other questions for Mr. Garvin?
Gary, like in say a school or a church, may have a small LED sign that just communicates by the doorway or something. Is there any regulations concerning the size of that would communicate to customers or something?
Typically, if it's, you tell like a directional sign or something like that, or.
Well, or information sign.
Yeah, that we wouldn't really address. The signs we're going to address is dealing with advertisement or commercial business showing it. A church and school, if they had like just something for their members or for the school itself. Is there anything we would address on that you're aware of? His question was it like a reader board?
Well, yeah, and that may be something that we need to look into. There's kind of an area there, like a PTA meeting tonight, as far as an information board that's on a building, letting you know of an event going on, and then there's a display board, a big advertising board.
And the way we may want to go, and I think the way the mayor may be leaning, is maybe having the churches and schools exempt from because they're exempt from a lot of other regulations.
But I do believe that we don't want either one of those to impact the neighborhood in a negative area.
Exactly.
So we need to be cautious about what size those are and regulation those are. So we may just need to think about how do you get the information to your community and your constituents as far as information, but you're not advertising, if you know what I'm meaning. So that may be just something for discussion about, hey, we're having a PTA meeting tonight, and that's all you're displaying there. And maybe it's just a red LED that's not aggressive instead of the pure white. Anyway, just for thought.
I saw, was in another community and saw a rental digital reader board type that you could rent and put in front of your business for, that one-day event or week's event or whatever. Is this fixed signs and temporary signs and mobile signs?
Yes, and we talked about that in planning commission too, as far as, because they have some that they rent and drive around.
Yes.
If they drive around, they're going to have to stay on the highways. if they're sitting in a parking lot, they're still going to be zoned, or within the highway commercial district area.
If I'm driving around with her, are all rules off?
Well, the way the ordinance is written, all the signs have to comply, all digital signs have to comply, so they would have to be within the highway commercial district or property that's zoned. So I'm assuming, and that might be more of an attorney question on the legal, on how we could do this, but I would say if they're driving the vehicle around, they're going to have to stay on the highways.
Sounds to me like we might need to move this forward without recommendation
I agree.
and kind of research some things, because as we talk about schools and churches, might be something, we have them turn theirs off at 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock and back on at a certain time, but
I am more in favor of something like that.
yeah.
It's been the trend, and of course, we're in the Bible Belt, and I love it because we are. Children grow up with good values around these parts, but it's been a big deal for churches to go away from the reader boards, Vacation Bible School, June the 10th through the 20th, to an image of children putting together dolls on film to get the excitement of the folks. And I would hate for the churches to lose that, and even the schools. But I think that what you've done with the brightness levels, and I promise it'll help big time, is a good thought, but that we want to put a little bit more thought into some of
The locations allowed.
But, but I really appreciate Gary and his staff for bringing this to us.
Yeah.
Because we have had a severe problem, and we will continue to have a severe problem in our community unless this is addressed. And I will say the school systems have been one of the violators. And it's been where a PTA has purchased a sign, and we've got complaints. And when it's been brought to our attention, we've tried to address it, and we have addressed it. But sometimes the capabilities are not built into that sign. And we've had to go in there and work with the sign companies at trying to get that addressed. So it's something that needs to be addressed in our community, and I appreciate Gary and his staff for bringing, and he's included me in, look into this. How can we get? And this is an in-depth ordinance. I think this is the right way of doing it. I think this is the right way of addressing it. It's just there is some tough areas, and we want to be good stewards.
to our guest speakers' point, and to Janie's point, it's a bad problem at night with a turned-up sign all the way. There's no doubt about it. It's a bad situation. So that's a major, major first step.
And there are a lot of the citizens that are talking, they want to tell you exactly which one they're complaining.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So kudos for addressing that.
That's right.
So do I need a motion to move this forward with no action?
Without recommendation? Yeah.
I'd be happy to move that.
Have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or requests for Mr. Garvin? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Copeland.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 4.
Consider accepting property located at 305 West Broadway, also known as the Hunts Green Space, as a donation to the City of Muskogee from Eastern Oklahoma Land Acquisition Company, a wholly owned subsidiary of the City of Muskogee Foundation, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Root.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, we were approached by the foundation asking if we would like to take title to this property, and we said yes. The Hunt, everybody knows where the green space is. It's right across the street. We have plans to use that space, so it'd be good if we owned it. So I don't know questions you might have. I'll be happy to try to answer them, but I'd recommend approval.
Thank you, Don. Questions?
Who's going to take care of it and mow it? And water it and fertilize it and weed killer it?
Well, Mark and I were just talking about that. It'd probably fall to Mark to do that. It'd be the city, clearly.
Okay.
So is it going to be a park, or what is it? What are we going to use it for? Do we know? Just hang on to
Not
it till
yet.
we figure it out?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking you don't want to designate it as a park, 'cause that really
No,
limits
we
you.
don't. Absolutely not.
Will really limit to what we can use it for in the future.
Right.
But it's a wonderful green space.
Yes, it is.
One of the uses that we had planned on this summer was to show movies in that space, outdoor movies. So,
Other suggestions that have been made, putting up picnic tables, having the food trucks come there for downtown use for the people who are downtown to want to stop and have lunch. We've discussed a number of items, but nothing really that we're ready to bring forward for council consideration of that particular parcel. But if this is accepted, we will come up with a plan and make recommendations for you to take further action on.
Thank you.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston. Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
The motion carries. Item number 5.
Consider approval to accept a sewer line easement and temporary construction easement from Doak Holdings LLC of Muskogee County, Oklahoma, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute any documents related thereto or take other necessary action.
George, this one's yours.
Hey, Chairman, members of the committee. Sometime back, we were trying to get a economic development grant to improve the paving on 43rd and 45th Street. And it was brought up that if we added a sewer element to this project, it would enhance the viability of it. And we did, and we got approved. And in the plan process, we found that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority would not let us run the sewer line across their right-of-way to get to our outfall line. So the engineers went back, and we realigned the sewer to a little bit to the east, and we did require getting the 2 additional easements to put it in. It's both property owners were agreeable, and really it's going to add to the project because it's going to get a couple more parcels that we'll be able to get on the sewer. And just recommend approval.
Thank you. Questions?
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 6.
Consider approval to accept a sewer line easement and temporary construction easement from Grace Bible Church of Muskogee County, Oklahoma, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute any documents related thereto or take other necessary action.
George.
Members of the committee, this is actually just the second piece to the project I was just speaking of. They're adjacent properties and required for the construction of the sewer. I recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
The motion carries. Item number 7.
Consider approval for final payment to Williams Contracting in the amount of $46,924.91 for the Cootie Creek Trail and Dog Park as recommended by staff and the Planning Design Group will take other necessary action.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Mr. Chair and committee members, City Manager asked me to bring to you some slides of the project that we've just completed. This is the Cootie Creek Trail and Bark Park. They were built together along Cootie Creek. We're on South 2nd Street, just a block off South Main. I hope you've seen it. I don't know if you've been there, but here's a couple of slides to give you a little view. This is the beginning of the trail at the parking lot in front of the dog park. It's 10-foot wide asphalt. It's same as Centennial Trail. This park from this point leads west and connects to Centennial Trail. That's that same 10-foot wide asphalt. This is a view from the trail looking back to the north of the dog park. There's two separate areas in the dog park. There's an area for small dogs. There's an area for large dogs. I got another picture that shows some of the signage there, shade areas and seating areas. The trail continues west along Cootie Creek. This is a slide showing some fencing. This is a narrow area between the creek and some oak trees that were beautiful oak trees there that line the park. There's another view of it. This is headed on west. That's 6th Street. That's the 6th Street Bridge. We're going to go under that bridge with the trail. now I'm looking back towards what the picture I showed you. Rick took these photos. I think he's trying to show the tree canopy there. They're really, really nice oak trees, and it's a nice setting down there, really. Other than there's some trash and debris in Cootie Creek that hopefully we'll figure out how to get out sometime. Some of the users there already, that user actually has a dog. Well, we think this is going to be very popular for people to bring their dogs to do the dog walk and then put the dogs on leash and go for a walk. It's just short of a mile from Cootie Creek trailhead. That we'll call this a trailhead where the parking lot is to the Centennial Trail. And then bicyclists there is also on the trail. And there's some additional trail users. This is showing the trail users there in the parking lot. The parking lot will serve both for the trailhead and for the dog park users as well. If you haven't been to the dog park, there's two gates at the entrance, and those blue signs on those gates identify the two areas. One says small dogs and one says large dogs. It's up to you to decide which size your dog is.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was like the carnivals where you had the little person in so many inches.
No, we don't have. We don't have. I mean, it could be confusing. I mean, if you have a medium-sized dog, you don't know where to go. But, and I've been told that the small dogs are meaner than the large dogs. Well, that's why we keep them separate. So. Anyway, the project's complete. We've had two walkthroughs. We have a punch list completed, and so we recommend final payment to Williams Contracting.
So, Mark, go back a couple of slides. That fence that's right along the edge, and I remember that. It looks like it's almost leaning already. Yeah. Or is it just that?
I think that's the shade.
Shading the illusions when I
there's a
first saw it.
sunshine that's shading on that makes it look like it's leaning. Let's see what that other one. I've walked it with on the final punch list, and so
it looks all right.
Yeah,
okay. It's just the shading illusion. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, address Mr. Wilkerson.
Sure.
On the punch list, how would we come out on the fence where the dogs were going under? What did we do?
We had to raise the elevation up. We brought in some soils and resodded that area to eliminate that gap. Contractor did that.
Like I said, I think this is a very good project, and I go down there sometimes, just and I see the little dogs playing, and people they enjoy that park.
And I did mention we're planning that we'll have a grand opening. We're still looking for a date. We wanted to wait till spring, a little bit later in spring when it greens up a little bit. So,
Councilman Reed, you ought to be proud. It's across the track.
Okay.
I move for approval, and my dogs Dudley and Max also approve it too.
Very good. Do I hear a second? I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions?
I have to be
Thanks,
proud
Mark.
because it's on that side of the track.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor
Roll
James
by.
Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 8.
Consider approval for final payment to Zenith Construction in the amount of $13,821.53 for Honor Heights Park improvements as recommended by staff, Planning Design Group, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Mr. Chairman, similar to the last project, Zenith Construction has completed the project out at Honor Heights. Again, I've got a few slides of some of his. Rick took some slides. He wanted to show some of the prettier things. We've had a beautiful spring. I hope you've been able to go out and see the park this year. A few slides. This is the new sidewalk that meanders through the what we call the woodland garden. We're still working on the woodland garden as far as the plantings, but this is a significant improvement that we've added these sidewalks through in the park. It takes people out from areas, from the parking facilities and from the other, and ties into the existing sidewalks and gets you out into the gardens, into the flowers. So it's just a few slides. Rick put in some slides for the flowers. We had a big weekend this past weekend. This is the event lawn. Most of the work done by Zenith was here at the Pavilion. This is the completed slide. Doesn't give it a very good photograph, but this is our new artificial grass that's there. I don't know if you had the chance to go to the Rotary event this weekend, but that's the reason why we chose to do this. It was kind of a mud bath last year, and this year had a lot of nice compliments from the folks that were there. Not just because it wasn't mud, but because it really looks nice. This is a photograph from Friday morning, I guess, as the tents were going up for the event. So it really looks like a class place, and a few more tulips, and that's all.
Thanks, Mark.
Any
That actually,
Great.
any consideration for some artificial weeds?
Hey.
We have plenty of weeds. I don't
They're
think we need any
artificial
more.
milkweeds.
Yeah, now that'd be all right.
Yeah, because we get the
Be hard.
butterflies that way.
Mark, it turned out great. I was wondering what it was going to look like after we talked about it. It did turn out great. I'm just glad you didn't put the little numbers and the down and distant markers on it like a football field, so it looks
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
I could have done that.
It
Ms.
is
Boydston,
beautiful.
are you going to move for approval? This is your vision that you had 8-9 years ago, if I
I
remember
move
correctly.
for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just have one quick
Sure.
question. Mark, on this sod, you put sod when we first put it down, on the pavilion, instead of this
Yes.
artificial turf.
Yes.
If we'd have put this artificial turf down first, how much money we would save?
I don't have any idea. The reason why we couldn't do it, reason why we didn't do it at the beginning, we didn't have enough money. I mean, we only had certain amount of budget money that the foundation awarded us, and we considered the artificial turf. It was just such a high number, we couldn't do it. And so after last year's Rotary event, when things went to mud, and the foundation gave us the additional new money, we chose, and we, of course, I checked with the foundation, and they approved that we would do this project. So it was something that we originally wanted, and I think everybody would be pleased with it now.
It is.
Well, it definitely looks good.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it really looks good.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion, comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 9.
Consider approval receiving donated funds for the month of March 2016 in the amount of $4,350 for the city's animal shelter sponsorship program as per the attached list, or take other necessary action.
Chief Eskridge.
Mr. Chairman, Council, normally our donated funds have not been a considerable amount. What we've received this month for a total is $4,350. Of that monies, we received $4,070 from fur babies. And this is a result of an estate that has been dedicated to our animal shelter. So this allows us to make construction or operational changes as well as physical changes out there. I don't know exactly how much that estate is valued at, but it's significant. So we're going to see some more funds and higher funding for the shelter. So I would hope that that we are able to do some projects that we've been talking about doing out there and get them completed. This isn't grant funding. This is actual monies that we can just ask for and hopefully receive. Roy, is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, yes.
Okay. So I would ask that we accept the $4,350 for the month of March.
Move the approval.
Second.
Before we vote, Chief, was this a large part of this funding, was that used to install the fence?
Yes, it
Okay.
was, and it was, I think it actually finished our fencing out there, so that's what it was for.
And I think there also were some funds donated to purchase a safe that was needed out there, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, the fence is what I was concerned about, so.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, hopefully we'll be able to do a lot of other things out there too.
Have they done the roof yet?
No.
I heard some talk about they were going to do the roof also at one time. I don't know.
That may be. They haven't discussed that with me yet.
The trustee of that particular trust did reach out and is planning to make a donation to repair half the cost, and I think that may have already been tendered, but isn't yet on this month's claim. It'll probably be on next month's claim. But I don't know that the work has been started yet, but we did have the funding set aside to do that, part from the donation and part from our capital expenses.
What an awesome legacy. Have a
Yeah.
motion and a second. Any other discussions or comments?
Well, I'd just like to thank God for just opening the doors. See how you opened those doors, Chief?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
seriously, God is good. He opened the doors for the animal shelter to get new things, and I just appreciate God for doing that.
We're trying to keep up with the Parks Department.
There you go. Good luck. Good luck, Chief. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Motion carries. I have one citizen who's wishing to address this committee. Teresa, the floor is yours. You know the name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. I'd like to talk about the wayfinding signs. I saw a couple of them, I guess, in the past week or two. I've been gone and happened to stumble across a couple of them. I didn't know what they were. They don't seem to stand out that well. One of them seemed to be extremely wordy, once again referring back to the gentleman that we brought in from Washington State. He had told us, 3 was kind of the magic number to be putting on any type of sign, possibly 4. But, I mean, we've got one that's, whatever it is, it's 2 lines and then another line and then another line. And I just don't seem to think that we kind of got the bang for the buck on this one. You can't read them as you're driving by, or at least read all of it. I don't know. Sometimes, when you're going down the highways and stuff, they'll have maybe 2 things mentioned, and then as you continue down the highway, there might be another 2. I don't know if that's something we could have done here in Muskogee, so you don't have everything wadded together in one sign. Once again, wish the visibility was a little bit better on it, because you don't really know what you're seeing until kind of you're about right here when you're driving, and then, you don't have time to see everything. I just don't know why we keep on bringing people in here to go and give them their impression of what we need to do to correct or to make this a viable community, and then we just kind of ignore what their recommendations are. And I realize they're recommendations, and you don't have to take every recommendation that somebody has, but I think that recommendation this gentleman had was quite a good recommendation. I don't know if you've got all the signs completely made. If there's still another batch, maybe we can kind of try again and get it right. But a little bit disappointed. I mean, I was way back when thought that the $900 and some odd thousand we were doing for the whatever these are, wayfinding signs plus the arches was a little bit too soon. I thought mainly the arches. But I'm a little bit disappointed that we just, in my mind, didn't quite get it right. I don't know if we can correct it, if we can interchange. There was talk at one time that we could interchange what was written on the signs. Maybe we can do less and put a few more signs up. But completely disappointed.
Thank you, ma'am. Seeing no further business, we're adjourned.